Well, Dr. Stan here at the Genesis Communication Network, coming to you from the hills overlooking beautiful and picturesque Monterey Bay. And this afternoon we're going to have as our guest Dr. David Conrad. We're going to be talking about vaccinations. And I had the opportunity of watching on a YouTube presentation an interview with Dr. Conrad with a rather skeptical fellow who he wasn't quite as nice as he might have been. I think I'll probably be nicer because I agree with what Dr. Conrad's already concerned about. But basically they were talking about H1N1 vaccination and really what a scam it was. And of course the host who was interviewing David was actually, had been in Mexico, and he realized, of course, that they had exaggerated the threat of H1N1. Let me tell you that the United Nations recently, World Health Organization recently declared the end to the H1N1 epidemic, and they said that about 18,000 people had died throughout the world. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the CDC says that 12,000 died here in the United States alone. How could you have 18,000 die throughout the world and here in America, where I think we have, 5% of the population, or probably less than that? Why, of course, we had 12,000. Would you suggest maybe the CDC isn't telling you the truth, and the fact is they lie, and they consistently lie, and government agencies lie, and nobody ever says anything about it? I've gone to the CDC headquarters, and the last time I was there, it was I think about the 5th of December, but of course they were saying that there was 0.8%, not one person, but 0.8 of a person per 100,000 who had the disease who died, or the incidence 0.8, I guess, for our entire population. So 0.8 per 100,000 mean there would be about 2,400 people, 2,500 people died, and that was the end of the epidemic for all intents and purposes here. And so they're simply lying to us about this whole situation. And the average individual doesn't like to think that government officials lie, but they do lie because nothing is ever done to them. When you work for the government, why, you can do whatever you want to, and you are never held responsible. That's why there at the SEC, they can sit all day long, watching pornography rather than checking on Bernie Madoff. And how many people were fired for watching pornography 8 hours a day? I don't know of anybody, but we know at least a couple of them are doing that. Well, David, how did you get really concerned about this issue as far as vaccines? I thought you really handled yourself very, very well in the interview.
Well, thank you, Dr. Stan. And I do want to make one clarification about that interview. Although the interviewer entitled it "Don't Take the Swine Flu Shot," the actual interview was not mainly about the H1N1 shot itself. It was about all vaccines, the fraud and the danger of all vaccines. And but his particular interest was the H1N1 shot, and that's what he's the one that uploaded that video, and so he gave it that title. Just wanted to make that little clarification. I became aware, kind of through a gradual process, about 20 years ago, the fraud and the danger of vaccinations. But I, for the most part, over those past 20 years, had just, I had not gone out in a public way to do anything about it. I'd tried to exercise some influence in my own, inner area of influence, like family members, friends, and other acquaintances. But I really hadn't gotten, agitated enough to do anything more than that until last summer, when I saw the writing on the wall for what I perceived to be the real possibility of forced, dangerous vaccinations on every man, woman, and child in this country and in the world. And the reason for that being was, since the occurrence of 9/11, there have been some laws quietly slipped into place that gives the government authorization to make it lawful and legal to force, under certain situations such as level 6 pandemics, every man, woman, and child to have a vaccination. And I was concerned because, given my experience, I've been able to convince quite a few people over the years about the fraud and the danger of vaccinations, but at the same time I realized how difficult that is. And also, I had the perception that, probably 95% of the population still was under the false impression that Big Pharma has given everyone that vaccinations are the intelligent thing to do. Now, I think that what occurred last year, Dr. Stan, gives us an opportunity, because something occurred last year that really has never occurred before with respect to opening the minds of the public concerning the fraud and the danger of vaccinations, and that was basically all the public health officials, the CDC, the World Health Organization, and the traditional medical establishment were all caught red-handed fomenting a phony level 6 pandemic. And even people who, for the most part, up until that time, had been continuing to give all their kids all the usual childhood vaccinations, thinking that that was a necessary thing to protect them from all those deadly diseases such as polio and smallpox, and the list goes on. Well, it was so blatant last year that a number of people became suspicious, at least of the H1N1 vaccine, and due in large part, I believe, to the vaccine resistance movement, we had a major success last year. 80% of the population, to my understanding, worldwide on average, rejected the H1N1 shot.
Well, I think they probably gave 60 to 70 million here in America, so that's really with a figure of population of over 300 million. That really was pretty good, especially when they had this tremendous propaganda campaign night after night after night after night. It was really very interesting. I was asked to, of course, debate on this subject by a local radio station. I said, sure, who are you going to get the other side? Well, they said, we'll get the local public health officer, and I said, lots of luck. Well, of course, the local public health officer wouldn't debate. Nobody in the medical profession would debate. I live in Santa Cruz. They had to go back to Maine or somewhere in New England to find somebody who had just come out of their residency, pediatric residency, a very nice doctor. And, of course, in a debate, the whole idea is to win. And she didn't even know that there was mercury in the vaccine. Why, she said they took it out of the childhood vaccines. And I said, you're right. They took it out of the childhood vaccines, but they left it in vaccines that are given to children, like the influenza vaccine and like this vaccine that you want to give to the children. Have you looked at the label? Well, no, she hadn't looked at the label. Well, from there on, it was all downhill, and she called in later, and she said, I did terrible, didn't I? And we tried to console her a little bit. But she meant very well. She really wants to help children without realizing, of course, all the diseases we have associated with the use of vaccines you don't see in the children who don't take the vaccines. And I thought you brought that out pretty well in in your discussion.
Yes, what actually brought that whole thing about was in contemplating what was going on, I finally decided to take some kind of action, just do what I could to see if I could help get the word out, not just about the H1N1 vaccine, but about all vaccines. Because I've known, as I said, for many years and have felt strongly that it's a fraud anyway. They don't work anyway, and they're dangerous for many people. But more important than that, as I know, and in fact, Stan, I want to highly compliment you on your work, the Brotherhood of Darkness. I discovered who you were about 8 months ago or so when I heard you as a guest on the Alex Jones show that I happened to be listening to one day, and I was impressed with you, and then I did a little further looking and found your Brotherhood of Darkness presentation and was very impressed with that at that time. I think that's something that every single person with any goodness in them whatsoever and any tinge of conscience left in themselves worldwide needs to see. And a little later on, I may have an idea or two that could possibly give perhaps millions of additional viewership exposure to that I'll explain in a little bit. But my main concern last year was maybe I can put something together that can help to get the truth out, because in my experience, I knew how difficult it is to convince people. If you send someone to a website where there are 100 articles, it typically doesn't do much. They just get bogged down with all the information and give up, and it hasn't accomplished that much.
You're absolutely right. Hey, we're going to have to go to a break here. Our guest is Dr. David Conrad. You're not practicing chiropractics now, are you? Or do you have ever gone back to it, or David?
There was kind of a buzzing in my ear.
Okay, fine. Well, hang on. We'll be back in just a moment here. Well, many men begin having prostate symptoms when they get to be 60 years of age, so Radio Liberty is offering a great product. It's called Prostate Support. It's put together by one of the country's leading health food manufacturers. It contains ingredients which have been proven to work. I know health experts who take the product, and I use it as well, and I think it really is very effective. In addition, we have a product for women during that difficult time of life. It's called Menopause Support. And lastly, we have a product for people who have chronic difficulty with their immune system and nothing else seems to work. It's called Immune Support. All are available by calling 1-800-544-8927, 1-800-544-8927. These products are compiled by a very reliable company. Give us a call, 1-800-544-8927.
On the average, Americans work between 45 to 50 years, hoping to build up enough wealth to retire and live out their golden years. Unfortunately, with taxation, the rising cost of food, energy, housing, and medical, many retirees are forced to live below the poverty line. Is this a flaw free enterprise, or is our monetary unit we call the Federal Reserve Note forcing us into perpetual debt, ensuring inflation and higher taxes? These questions and more can be answered by reading G. Edward Griffin's book, The Creature from Jekyll Island. Congressman Ron Paul states it's what every American needs to know about central bank power. A gripping adventure into the secret world of international banking cartel. Hi, this is Ted Anderson. I will give a silver dollar from the early 1900s to anyone who purchases this book. Call 1-800-686-2237 and order a copy today. It's critical that the public be made aware of the system. Call and order your copy today at 1-800-686-2237. That's 1-800-686-2237.
Hello, folks. This is Alex Jones introducing you to the incredible Berkey Solar Charger, your source for free solar electricity. This portable system is the size of a book when folded and small enough to fit into a briefcase, handbag, or glove compartment. The Berkey Solar Charger has been designed to power the Berkey Lights LED lamps as well as other applications such as mobile phones, radios, digital cameras, and PDAs when electricity is unavailable. Its multi-voltage capabilities, multiple adapters, and rechargeable batteries provide for a flexible source of auxiliary backup power. Simply place the Berkey Solar Charger in the sun, plug in your application, and you have power. Disconnect your application, the system automatically begins charging its own rechargeable batteries. Get the incredible Berkey Solar Charger for only $75 by calling New Millennium at 888-803-4438. And tell them Alex Jones sent you. That's toll-free, 888-803-4438.
What is a wind generator?
How can the wind produce power for a small cabin?
How can wind energy be stored and used during an emergency?
Can I assemble my own wind generator?
For answers to questions about wind power, visit windbluepower.com. Did you know the wind can provide your family with emergency power? It can with a wind generator from windbluepower.com. Learn how our amazing LightBreeze wind generator kits start charging a 12-volt battery at just 6 mile-per-hour wind. Or see the new Cyclone X2 dual kit featuring 2 wind generators on just 1 tower. And learn why schools and universities across the country utilize our products to teach about wind power and alternative energy at windbluepower.com. All kits qualify for a 30% IRS tax credit for residential energy efficient property. Enter coupon code RADIO for a 5% discount at windbluepower.com. That's windbluepower.com or call 800-976-0026. That's 800-976-0026.
Tired of searching for great talk radio?
Search no more.
I just want to hear more of it.
We are the GCN Radio Network.
Well, Dr. Stan back here at the Genesis Communication Network, and of course, our guest today, and we're going to be talking certainly David Conrad. And David, now you were trained as a chiropractor. Are you still working as a chiropractor? Did you give that up?
No, I did that several years ago for about 5 years, then I decided to do other things for a living.
Okay, fine. Well,
it was a good experience for me at the time.
Well, it was a good education. It gave you some background and these medical issues, which is certainly, then it helps when you're talking about it.
And it was a curriculum, I will add, that was not controlled by Big Pharma.
Right. But anyway, I think it's so important.
And I wanted to make this point, Dr. Stan, which I know you full well realize, and many of your listeners. I believe that the the modern-day secret combination, or the Brotherhood of Darkness, as you so aptly put it in your presentation that I saw, has not only absolute control over the mainstream media, but they have control over Big Pharma. They have control over the vaccine industry. And they are bent on depopulating the planet. And, you know, they have many diabolical tools at their disposal that they can use against us. But one of their diabolical tools that they have at their disposal is vaccinations. In fact, you know, in your presentation, none dare call it genocide, which I had the opportunity to watch yesterday. It goes through all of the genocide that has occurred just in the last couple hundred years in China, in Nazi Germany, in Russia, and many other places. In each instance where that genocide occurred, the first step that had to take place before that could occur was the disarmament of the people, was it not?
Absolutely. And that everybody should understand that what we're hearing today and all this anti-gun propaganda is a prelude to what I believe is going to be a genocide here.
But what I want to point out, Dr. Stan, is with modern technology and vaccinations as a diabolical tool at the disposal of this secret combination who is bent on depopulation, they can skip that step now. Because if they have enough people that are propagandized to the point that they think that vaccinations are the intelligent thing to do, so that any time the CDC or Big Pharma or the government orders the public to go out and roll up their sleeve, well, when the public's willing to let them inject something into them, well, they can do all kinds of things to the public. They can sterilize them. They can shorten their lifespan by 10 or 20 years, give them debilitating autoimmune disorders, all kinds of things. Or even, those are soft kill methods. If they wanted to, they could go even harder and faster. But anyway, last year, when I decided to do something about it, I really kind of had a lofty goal of, hey, why don't we put the vaccine industry out of business and take away that one tool that they have? And I know that sounds kind of like David and Goliath, but I really believe, Stan, that the timing is probably better than ever now because of what happened last year and how that opened up the minds of so many people when they saw that fraud, that scam of that phony level 6 pandemic. I think that the opportunity is there that if there was a simple enough tool that was persuasive and powerful and effective enough and could be dispersed and viralized quick enough, worldwide, fast enough, they really could be put out of business, because if there weren't any people left willing to roll up their sleeves, they'd be out of business. And even as far as the third world countries are concerned, that may not have internet access and may not have access to that kind of information, it's the countries that are modernized that fund all those vaccines. They're the ones, the taxpayers pay for the research and development of that. If everybody became awakened about all vaccines in general, they'd be out of business. So it's not an impossible goal, and I believe that with God's help and enough people doing a little something, it could very well be possible to take one of those tools away.
How are we going to do it? That's the question.
Okay, well, last year when I decided to do something, I prayed to God for help, and I know you understand this because you're a God-fearing man, and to help me to write something, just a single little simple something that people could view without having to go to a website and go through 100 articles, something that would catch their attention and be persuasive and powerful enough. I don't know if you saw that. I'll explain what that is in a minute. And something that people with a click of a mouse could just send to all their contacts, and they in turn could do the same. And if a few million listeners of a radio station, for example, started that off, well, it could spread very quickly. So I wrote an email. And it was about a 4-page long email, but it was designed in such a way so that you click on the first link, it's an 8-minute video clip, and by the time you're done watching that 8-minute video clip, you're 90% convinced that, hey, there's something really wrong with vaccines. And it perks your interest to the point to where you click the second little link, and it's an 11-minute video clip. And by the time you watch that, well, you're 99% convinced that not only are they a fraud and they don't work anyway, but they're dangerous. And then there are a few other links, and by the time you get down just the first page, which takes just a very short period of time, you're absolutely convinced that vaccines are a fraud, they don't work anyway, and they're extremely dangerous. And you also have you understand your rights as to how you don't have to give your kids all those shots to get them to school and exactly what to do about it. And so what I did was I worked with one of Alex Jones's producers, Rob Dew. I kind of collaborated with him. I explained my idea to him, and I wrote it and I sent it to him, and he wound up having it published at InfoWars as an article. So there's a link to an actual article for it. But so it received a certain amount of exposure. I think about a year ago when you did a Google search for that article, about 20 pages would come up of everywhere all around the world where it had shown up. Now it's been kind of cleaned up and you only get 3 or 4 pages. But then in addition to that, I wrote a letter to the editor to my little local newspaper here. And you'll find this kind of somewhat amazing, Dr. Stan. You're aware of where most of the advertising dollars come from to a newspaper or mainstream media, aren't you?
Sure.
Big Pharma. So I considered them to have the utmost courage and integrity for printing that entire letter to the editor. Now that sent, maybe a few thousand people in this little valley to that article. But what I also did at the same time was simultaneously I sent a letter to the editor to the big newspaper in Salt Lake City, which is the Deseret News. And that's a big enough newspaper that your chances of getting a letter to the editor published are like, 1 in 1,000, And for something like that was so caustic and, toxic, I guess you would say, to Big Pharma, I felt that there'd be no chance whatsoever it would be printed. But lo and behold, they didn't have the guts to print the whole thing. They kind of really watered it down and just printed the last 3 paragraphs. But it did refer their 476,000 subscribers to that article, which is called They Want to Inject My Kid with What? I guess I didn't say that before. That was actually the article which was the documentation for the interview that was done later that you were talking about. But then what occurred a little after that, the producer of the Alex Jones show printed this out and put it on Alex Jones's desk and gave him a chance to look over it. And then he had me call into the show. It was off topic, so I was only on for a few minutes. But Alex Jones looked that over, and he just praised it up and down and said, I can't believe how good this is. And then he urged his millions, I don't know how many millions, maybe tens of millions of listeners to search for it, get it, use it, and then send it out to all their contacts as a tool to quickly convince their contacts. And I have received quite a bit of feedback from people that have used it to do so, and so I know that it works. But that was not my full idea. That never really got implemented. What my idea was for there to be a little like a yellow eye-catching banner.
Hold that thought. We'll be right back.
Your natural organic herbal formula for heart health is Heart and Body Extract.
My name is Van, and I'm 68 years old, and I live in Vermont. In the spring of 2003, I started to have problems with my heart. It felt like my heart was pounding, made me feel breathless. I tried many different things to try to get some help for myself. Nothing did anything.
Heart and Body Extract is very powerful, very effective, and works quickly.
I saw one of Sharon's ads and ordered Heart and Body Extract. I noticed a difference quickly, within days. The episodes became less frequent, and by a month had completely vanished.
Usually you find a 30-day or 60-day guarantee. Heart and Body Extract comes with a lifetime 100% ironclad money-back guarantee. Details at hbextract.com or call 866-295-5305. Call 866-295-5305. 866-295-5305 for Heart and Body Extract.
Where have all the military surplus stores gone? Don't worry, you don't need one, because everything you need at Military Surplus is at MaineMilitary.com. That's M-A-I-N-E Military.com, one of the last surviving true military surplus stores in the country. Go online now to MaineMilitary.com and discover a source for hard-to-find surplus items at true surplus prices. Surplus gun cleaning kits as low as $2.99. Complete chemical suits as low as $11.99. See our huge selection of gas masks, filters, and accessories. Finish and M10 gas masks are 3 for $30, and Swiss filters are 3 for $12. Searching for Strike Anywhere matches? MaineMilitary.com has them, plus a whole new product line of survival and first aid kits and lots more. Get free shipping on orders over $50 only at MaineMilitary.com. That's M-A-I-N-E Military.com, or call 877-608-0179, 877-608-0179. MaineMilitary.com, the main name in military supply.
Now you can bring Berkey purification power anywhere with the Sport Berkey filtration bottle. Ideal for sporting games, camping, or boating. Or Sport Berkey is small enough to store in your glove box, so it's ideal backup for unexpected emergencies like blackouts, floods, or earthquakes. It's simply the best personal water filtration system available. So effective you can drink raw, untreated water from lakes, rivers, and streams. Unlike other sport bottles, the Sport Berkey's patented filter formulation is so powerful it removes cysts, parasites, harmful bacteria, and chemicals like herbicides and pesticides. It even reduces radon-222, lead, and other heavy metals. This lightweight, rugged 22-ounce filter is small enough to go everywhere, so take one to work and keep another in your glove box for emergencies. Get the Berkey Sport for only $39. Get two for $70 by calling New Millennium at 888-803-4438. Order your Berkey Sport today. That's toll-free, 888-803-4438, or order on the web at berkeywater.com.
If you're in a service business, that's money ringing in your ears. If your phone's not ringing, chances are it's a problem with your marketing. Landscapers, painters, roofers, carpet cleaners, pet sitters, handymen. Anyone with a residential service business can build a huge and loyal customer base fast with the Magic Yellow Flyer. No more expensive newspaper, yellow pages, or internet pay-per-click ads. The Magic Yellow Flyer will have new customers calling you within 1 week. The Magic Yellow Flyer marketing system is the most effective and inexpensive way to build a referral-only service business in a short period of time. And the Magic Yellow Flyer comes with an outrageous 1-year guarantee. You will get new customers or your money back. For details, go to MagicYellowFlyer.com. No matter what business you're in, the Magic Yellow Flyer marketing system will work for you. Visit MagicYellowFlyer.com. Put the Magic Yellow Flyer to work for you today. Visit MagicYellowFlyer.com.
10 years. A decade of talk. Great talk radio is here on the Genesis Communications Network.
Well, Dr. Stan back here, our guest is David Conrad. We're talking about certainly his plan to try to get information out to make people aware of the fact that certainly vaccines are dangerous. Now, you never know what they're going to put in them. Here on the H1N1 vaccine, they didn't add the squalene that they wanted to. And they didn't because they knew that there would be such an outroar from the American people that probably almost no one would take it. And so but of course they gave it to the people over in Europe, and now some of the people over in Europe are beginning to have all sorts of vague symptoms of autoimmune disease. We don't know how many, but we do know that a significant number of people, or at least a number of people, are having some vague autoimmune-like symptoms, which we knew would happen if they used squalene. So they used that up in Canada as well. We just don't know how many people are going to be permanently damaged from the alteration of their immune system. But before we go on, David, do you have a website? How can people get your information?
I don't have a website, but they can do a Google search for two phrases that I will give, which will lead them to that article I was telling you about that can be used as a tool, and then also the interview that was kind of a follow-up to that. The first Google phrase, the Google search engine works best for this. Put in the words InfoWars, they want to inject my kid with what? And then you'll go to that tool I was describing, that email that became an article at InfoWars. And then the second phrase they can put into the Google search window is interview Dr. Dave Conrad. And they will get that interview that you saw, which can also be used as a fairly persuasive tool. I believe it's only 36 minutes long, and it's pretty persuasive because the person, as you saw, was kind of, well, he was vaccinating all his kids, but by the end of the interview, you could tell he's never going to let anyone vaccinate any of his kids with any vaccine again. But what I was about to explain about what happened to that was, other than that one-time exposure where Alex urged his tens of millions of listeners to go to it and to use it as a tool, it kind of got buried in the archives. So it was kind of like that one-time exposure. And what I had tried to implement over there through Rob Dew, their producer, was I had a screenshot of an idea I had for like a little yellow eye-catching banner that said, viralize the truth about vaccinations, email this to all your contacts, click here. And then people could click on that and they just have some simple instructions. Put this in the title. They want to inject my kid with what? and copy paste this link and send it to all your contacts. Have them do the same. And Rob, the producer, liked that idea, and he sent it on to the webmaster a few times, but for whatever reason it was never implemented. I followed up for 2 or 3 months, and it was never implemented. But and then another idea I had on top of that was if a 30-second spot were recorded, and I gave them an example of what could be done to direct the listeners to that tool, about 30 seconds every hour, that would magnify the effect. So those are the ideas I had. But as I was thinking yesterday about what I could possibly talk about while I was on here, I had no illusion of educating you, Dr. Stan, about vaccinations, and most of your audience, too, is well informed if they've been listening to you. But I thought I could maybe talk about that, because I don't just want to talk about vaccinations. I want to put the vaccine industry out of business. And I think that with the help of your listeners and God's help and that getting out wide and far enough, it is possible. Because it's just a simple matter of if there are not enough people left or willing to roll up their sleeves, they are out of business. They'll still have many other tools they can use against us, but at least they won't have that one. Hey, we do what we can when we're standing up against evil. But the other idea that I had yesterday, though, Stan, after reviewing, it had been about 8 months since I saw your Brotherhood of Darkness, so I watched it again, and also I found your None Dare Call It.
Genocide, right?
Genocide, and those are two things that everyone also ought to see. And so I had a little idea that could also increase exposure to your website and your radio station, and those two presentations to the tune of millions by tagging them along with it. So for additional information, see this link and then have a link to radioliberty.com, and then have a little biography of you, and then those two presentations. And then, as many of your listeners, I don't know how many listeners you have. I know you're on 5 hours a day, but at any given point in time, there are probably different listeners than there are, say, an hour or two later. So if a 30-second spot ran every hour for the 5 hours, you might rotate that through a few million people in a week. I don't know. And if many of them would send that out, and then they would, those contacts would do the same, et cetera, well, that could possibly bring additional millions of listeners and viewers to all of those presentations. And so at the same time that people are learning about something that will put the vaccine industry out of business, they'll also, many of them will also take the opportunity to watch those longer presentations and be educated about the secret combination or the Brotherhood of Darkness that is operating, whose goal it is to kill most of us off, keep the rest of us around as slaves, and make obscene profits in the process.
Well, it's so difficult for the average individual to really believe there are people who want to kill off most of the world's population, but they're in the process of doing it today. How are they doing it today? Well, one of the things they're doing, of course, is the worldwide vaccination program. As you know, of course, we took the mercury out of the childhood vaccines we use in the United States, but we left it in the vaccines that we're giving to the children throughout the world. Now, why is that a problem? Well, very simply, because that amount of mercury that's in there will alter the genetic structure of the child and switch off their fertility genes so that not only will they not have as many children, but their children will not have as many children, and their children, and in future generations by the processes known as epigenetics. And the average person has never even heard of epigenetics. They do not understand that one of the major reasons behind the worldwide vaccination program financed by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is population control. Why? Because they're totally in favor of population control. And if you can introduce the mercury, which is toxic, into all those little black and brown children, you can destroy their fertility for generations yet unborn. And there's not one person in a million in America who really understands that mercury is not only toxic to certainly the mind and to the endocrine system and to the liver and to the heart, it's toxic to the fertility system and reproduction. And the scientists know that, and I'm sure that they know exactly what they're doing. It's just that the average little a black and brown child doesn't understand, their parents don't understand. And I think what you're doing, David, is so important. People have to understand that this is simply one of the many techniques they're using to destroy the fertility of the world. Fertility rates are dropping. The sperm count of men here in the United States has fallen 50% in the last 25 years. And everybody in government just shrugs and says, gee, shucks, we have no idea why that's happening. And they're lying. They know why it's happening. They just don't want the men to know.
And here's another little method that they have. Dr. Stan, you're a little older than me, so you were around during the 50s. I was born in 61, but I've heard from many different sources that in the 50s it was rare for you to know a person that died of cancer. I mean, it happened once in a while, but it was rare for you to know someone that died of cancer. I think the rate was something like 1 out of 33 people got cancer back in the 50s. Now it's 1 in 3. And I think it is no small coincidence that 80% of Big Pharma's money comes through treating cancer.
And we have a war on cancer. It's been going on since the 1970s. For some reason, we seem to be losing that war. I wonder why.
Well, there's no financial incentive, of course, for Big Pharma to eliminate cancer, to give real prevention and real cures for cancer. Those are suppressed, of course. But what also is interesting about that is you will notice how Big Pharma, traditional medicine, always measures their success rates for cancer cures in the terms of 5-year survival rates. In other words, they poison someone and radiate them and all this and that, and if they live longer than 5 years, they call that a success, which is just long enough to sap all of the money out of that family and their insurance policy and then kill them.
Well, it's a tragic situation that anybody would intentionally block effective treatments for cancer, but those of you who listen to our program have heard of the Brzezinski breakthrough. Dr. Brzezinski's, of course, a problem with the government. They wanted to send him to prison for 300 years because he had an effective treatment for cancer. One of the best things you can do to protect yourself is to use Lonzevinex products, to use vitamin D3. Vitamin D3 will cut down your incidence of flu and cancer about 50%. But the doctors are discouraged from using it. We'll be back in just a moment with David Conrad.
Where are my car keys? What did I come in this room for? Where did I put that?
A common condition called age-related memory loss is robbing millions of people of their ability to remember and think clearly. And Alzheimer's and Parkinson's are occurring at younger ages, even early 20s and 30s. And there's much evidence that brain inflammation may be the cause. Brain inflammation may also cause depression and insomnia. But there's great news. Studies show by taking special, powerful nutrients, brain inflammation and its damaging effects may be greatly reduced. And that's why neurosurgeon Dr. Russell Blaylock created his brain repair formula to reduce brain inflammation and maintain a healthy brain. So, for a free book on brain health or information on Dr. Blaylock's special brain repair formula, call 1-800-SPECIAL or visit 1-800-SPECIAL.com. 1-800-SPECIAL.
The summer specials are here. Colloidal silver, CoQ10 with hawthorn, glucosamine chondroitin, super male plex and female plex, memory power, colon enhancer, and more, all on sale at Herbal Healer Academy. Visit herbalhealer.com now for big summer savings on longevity products like HGH, resveratrol, colloidal minerals, and hundreds of natural health products. Herbal Healer Academy has been a global leader of safe, natural medicine, providing natural supplements, correspondence courses, informative newsletters with ongoing research information to our members since 1988. Sign up for free online newsletters and don't miss McCain's 3-point plan for health at the Herbal Healer Academy website, herbalhealer.com. Find natural ways for weight loss, plus men's, women's, and children's health products, and our famous top-selling 4-herb tea. The testimonials are incredible, and so are the summer specials at herbalhealer.com. Herbal Healer Academy, healing the world with nature, one person at a time.
Do you know where the 78 potentially active volcanoes in U.S. are located? And do you know the locations of the top 300 prime terrorist targets? You can find these answers and more in the new interactive CD book, Prudent Places USA. With the more than 50 interactive parameters, you can pinpoint natural and man-made disaster areas, brewing environmental catastrophes, the safest cities, the best places for solar and wind energy, and much, much more. Complete with 3 gigabytes of detailed information on each of 3,000 plus counties in the U.S., including 550 high-resolution full-color maps and full-color photographs, as well as detailed information and analysis to help you zero in on the best places to live, the ideal location for cabins and vacation homes, as well as safe and unsafe areas. Get Prudent Places USA for only $29 plus shipping by calling New Millennium at 888-803-4438. That's 888-803-4438 to order on the web or at berkeywater.com.
Never clean or maintain your old-fashioned gutters again. Now there's Rain Handler. How'd you like to never have to climb a shaky ladder to dig out leaves from your gutters ever again? You need Rain Handler, the patented modern gutter that eliminates gutter cleaning forever. Rain Handler converts the runoff from your roof to gentle raindrops and spreads them away from your home, eliminating ground erosion. Rain Handler is made of self-cleaning aluminum louvers that allow leaves and debris to blow away. And Rain Handler cannot cause ice dams. Each Rain Handler section is guaranteed against winter damage and comes with a 25-year warranty and a full 1-year money-back satisfaction guarantee. Go to GetRainHandler.com to see this amazing system in action, or call 800-942-3004. All radio listeners receive a 10% discount at GetRainHandler.com. That's GetRainHandler.com. Call 800-942-3004 or visit GetRainHandler.com today.
Tired of searching for great talk radio?
There's a wide range of stuff on here.
We are the GCN Radio Network.
Well, Dr. Stan, we're back for the last segment here with Dr. David Conrad. David, you go right ahead.
Okay, we were just talking about different methods that have been employed to reduce the population. In recent years, much of it's been soft kill. But I do feel that when the powers that be feel that the timing is right, they will ramp it up to quicker methods such as war, pestilence, rampaging diseases that they manufacture, etc. But one thing I want to point out that has been occurring already, how many people were exterminated in Russia? Was it something like 60 million just under the reign of Stalin? Was it something like that?
About like that. That was Stalin. You're right.
Well, just something that has been occurring in our very own country since 1973, of course, is 1.5 million unborn babies being slaughtered. And you'd multiply that through the years, it's something like 60 million since 1973. And just thrown away like garbage. That is evil. And that's just in the United States alone, and that is pretty much par for the course for all the so-called modernized countries of the world. But getting back to this vaccination thing, I don't just want to talk about it. I want to put those guys out of business. And so what I would like to do, if it's agreeable to you, Dr. Stan, is after we're through, I'll email you something that I'd put together for InfoWars that the producer over there liked, but it never ever made it through the webmaster, and I'll adapt it to something that would work for you and your website, and maybe you can take a look at it. And it sounds like you have not yet seen that They Want to Inject My Kid with What article. If you take a look at that and you see that, yes, indeed, this could quickly persuade someone, and you think that it would be a good tool, well, maybe we can implement that and get some exposure of increased millions of people to that, and also the Brotherhood of Darkness and the none dare call it genocide around the world. And who knows, maybe even put those guys out of business. I do think it's possible if enough people did a little something and enough people just knew the truth so that they would be unwilling to roll up their sleeves and their children's sleeves for any more vaccinations, including all the so-called childhood vaccinations.
I think the people have to understand that you never know what's in the vaccine. And certainly we know that Baxter tried to introduce a deadly avian flu virus in Europe in the regular influenza vaccine. If they hadn't checked it and found it was in there, they could have killed millions. And when asked how it happened, Baxter said, shucks, we don't know. We know that they put contraceptives in the vaccines and sterilized women throughout the world. Nobody was ever punished for that. And when they put toxic things in the vaccines intentionally, not to prevent disease, but to do damage to the bodies of our people, then we should be concerned, and you don't know what's in those vaccines. And I don't think the people in Europe knew that there was a squalene adjuvant in the vaccines that they took. and how many of them will be permanently damaged. It will take years before we know, but one shot can change your life forever.
That's right. You're putting your trust in Big Pharma, which is controlled by a diabolical secret combination that wants to rule the world and kill most of us off, keep the rest of us around as slaves, and make obscene profits in the process. And the other aspect of that is, there are a lot of things that can go wrong with a vaccine, even if intentional toxic things aren't put in there. And people will learn of some of those things that can go wrong. You just never know. There are a lot of people that think they have to get a bunch of vaccinations to travel, let's say, for example, because they just go to their doctor and they say, oh, I'm going to travel to such and such country. What vaccinations do I need? And the doctor just gives them a certain number of vaccinations. And what they don't realize is if they actually go to the source of what the country is asking for, those vaccines are all just listed in the recommended column. And for hardly any of the countries around the world are there any in the required column. There are a few tropical countries here and there that say yellow fever. But if you wanted to go on a trip, Dr. Stan, and someone told you, okay, in order to go on this trip, you need to stand in front of that wall and allow me to fire a .22 caliber bullet through your kneecap, would you subject yourself to that?
Probably most people wouldn't do it.
How about to your children? Now, that's something that's going to, and that's certainly not a lethal situation, a .22 caliber bullet through your kneecap, but the destruction in that kind of a scenario is immediate and obvious. But with a vaccine, which is a biological weapon, the effects of that are hidden, and they can be long-term. But really, you can do just as much damage or more than that example of a .22 caliber bullet through the kneecap with a vaccine.
Okay, well, we're out of time, David. I hope you'll be in touch with us. Maybe we can get you on some of our other programs. You present your ideas very well, and I think it's so vitally important that people understand that the vaccines certainly are not safe, and that's the problem. I mean, are they effective? In certain instances, they may be, but are you willing to take a gamble? And at the present time, knowing what the agenda is, I'm not. God bless, and keep in touch, please. Go ahead and send me that material. Maybe we can get it posted for you.
Appreciate that. Is there time to say those searches one more time, Dr. Stan, or not?
Go right ahead.
Okay. Again, the search was in the Google search window, type in InfoWars, they want to inject my kid with what? And then in a separate search, do interview of Dr. Dave Conrad. Thank you very much for having me on, Dr. Stan.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. God bless. And that was David Conrad. Hope you enjoyed him. Well, this is the time when I need to mention that my ministry is primarily listener-supported, and if you're in a position to help, we'd love to hear from you. And you can get our 4 best tapes of the month or get our newsletter, whatever you'd like. Our telephone number is 1-800-544-8927. Now, we have an interesting talk. It's called The Specter Haunting America, and it goes into the background of vaccinations. It simply points out that certainly today in the United States, according to the CDC, 1 in every 6 children has either a neurodevelopmental abnormality or a learning disability. 1 in 9 children is asthmatic. 1 in 11 to 12 children has significant allergies. 1 in 66 boys is autistic. 1 in 90 to 100 children is autistic. And basically, you seldom see these diseases in children who don't get their vaccinations. But the government insists that there's no relationship. And why would you feel there's no relationship if you don't see it in children who are vaccinated, and you do see it or seldom see it in children vaccinated, but you certainly you see it in children who are vaccinated, and they're lying. They know what they're doing. If you doubt that they're lying intentionally, we do carry the Simpson-Wood report. It's a secret, top-secret CDC report that was only released, liberated by Congressman Weldon, who had to threaten the CDC to get it. Certainly, according to our good friend Mark Geyer, the incidence of autism was something, and other associated neurological diseases was something like 27 times higher in the children who were vaccinated with mercury vaccines to those who were vaccinated with vaccines that didn't contain mercury. They know what what they're doing, ladies and gentlemen. The Simpson report, you'll actually read it. You'll see the CDC officials saying, well, we can't let the American people know that the mercury's damaged their children. They won't trust us. And ladies and gentlemen, you should not trust them. These are not honorable people. And unfortunately, when you take God and prayer and the Bible right and wrong out of our schools, why should we be surprised that the next generation is made up of immoral men, who many of them will sell their souls to the pharmaceutical industry? Now, we've got a great DVD. We have, of course, The Spectre Haunting America. We have David Ayub, and he's going to be talking. This is his talk on mercury, autism, and the global vaccine agenda. If you get the DVD, get a free CD-ROM with several thousand pages of scientific documents and CDC documents showing they know that they're damaging our children. We have Dr. Russell Blaylock's DVD, Vaccines and Brain Development, so that all three of them are available. We have Neil Miller's book, Vaccines, Are They Safe and Effective, and his book on the Vaccine Safety Manual. You need to get this information. You need to let parents know that they're destroying the lives of their children. They know exactly what they're doing. What possible justification is there for injecting children in the nursery before they leave the hospital, with the first 2 days of life, with hepatitis B vaccine, when there is almost literally no danger that their child is going to get hepatitis B, unless, of course, their mother has it, and they ought to be testing the mother to find out. But you see, they're not doing that. They're giving that dangerous vaccine to children and destroying the lives of many because they alter the immune system. You must understand how the immune system works. That's what I cover in my DVD, The Spectre Haunting America. Well, our telephone number is 1-800-544-8927, 1-800-544-8927. Remember our all-day conference on the 17th of October, and Dr. Abe is going to be here to giving an entirely different talk, even more shocking than the one you heard before. So if you'd like to come, you're going to have reservations. People are coming from all over the country. We're bringing in great speakers. Our number, 1-800-544-8927. 1-800-544-8927. Please pray.
Hi, this is Ted Anderson. If you own an Apple iPhone and love to listen to your favorite programs on GCN, I've got good news for you. I'm proud to announce that GCN has a brand new iPhone app available for our dedicated listeners at GCNlive.com. Listen to your favorite hard-hitting GCN programs live or on demand right on your iPhone. And the best part? The GCN iPhone app can be yours absolutely free. Download the iPhone app today by clicking on the banner at GCNlive.com. Again, that's GCNlive.com. We the people grow cotton, weave fabric, engrave ink, embed strips and fibers to protect from counterfeit and carting to a private bank, having it lent back at interest, forcing taxes to service debt. This capitalism, or was Jefferson correct when stating a central bank issuing the public currency is a greater menace to the liberties of the people than a standing army? Ted Anderson, I'm placing a free silver dollar in a book that explains our monetary system. Call for your copy, 800-686-2237. It's time to understand the system. Call 800-686-2237. That's 800-686-2237.